Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending Is Certification Right for You? During these difficult times as business owners, it has given us reason for pause, to pivot and look for new ways to grow and expand our businesses. Hi, I'm Mary Shannon, founder of Connectus Worldwide, a professional business consulting firm. Again, thank you for joining me on this certification journey. Today's learning objective is to develop an understanding of certification. Our agenda: what is certification? The certification groups. Is certification right for you? Requirements for certification, benefits of certification, and the different types. Who are we? Connectors Worldwide LLC, a minority woman owned business enterprise. We have 30 plus years of corporate and public sector experiences, supplier diversity, public relations, project management, operations, and procurement. We see ourselves as collaborative bridge builders and change agents. And also, I'd like to add to that, we are definitely advocates for small business. Certification. What is certification? Certification is the first critical step in building a relationship with corporate and government entities. It is a competitive business tool. However, it is not a guarantee of business. And I'll go into that a little bit more later. Certification refers to the authentication of certain requirements. Once you apply for certification, you have a site visit, and then you're presented, once all your paperwork has been approved, then you're provided a certificate. Certifying agencies may include federal, state, or city departments. And there's also nationally recognized third party organizations. So you might be familiar with the National Minority Supplier Development Council, who provides certifications for minority business owners. And on a regional basis, that would be Mountain Plains Minority Supplier Development Council. You also might be familiar with Marvin Lyman, who heads up the Mountain Plains. Also, there's WeBank, which is a national organization for women. And on the regional level, you have the Women's Business Development Center. When you go after your certification, whether it's federal, state, or city, and or a national certifying agency, the process includes a collection of business information, financial sheets, ownership data, operating agreements, etc. And then again, once you've been approved, you will have a site visit. The purpose of the site visit is to prove that you are who you say you are. So the owner that is 51% should be in that site visit, because if you are the owner who has the 51% ownership, you manage and control the day-to-day operations of your business. Certification groups. There are several certification groups. We'll start with Black or African American, Hispanic, Asian Pacific American, Native American. I'll give you a moment just to look those over. Women, veteran, and LGBT. Is certification right for you? Can you answer yes to each of these questions? Are you a diverse business? Is your product or service targeted at corporations and or government entities? Does your business have the capacity to deliver quality products and services on a large scale? Do you want to have opportunities to expand or grow your business? And lastly, are you willing to share the details of your business? Again, there are required as well as mandatory documents that the certifying agency is asking for you to provide to them. So you have to be sure that you're willing to share that information. Requirements for certification. You must be a US citizen or a permanent resident. You have to have at least 51% ownership, management and control of the business. And you must be a for profit enterprise physically located in the United States. So at least your business headquarters has to be in the US. If publicly held, at least 51% of the stock is owned by a member or members of the certification group. And then if you're LGBT, you must exercise independence from any non LGBT business enterprise. Benefits of certification. Certification enhances a company's exposure as a diverse business. You have access to government and corporate contacts and contracts. It positions you in a highly competitive marketplace. And then access to capital. SBA is guaranteed loan program. And we know that the issue that most small businesses have today is access to capital. We know this because of what has been going on this year during, as we say, difficult or unprecedented times. And so March 27th, President Trump passed the CARES Act. And through the CARES Act, there was the PPP program and the EIDL program, which allowed business owners to apply for loans. Some of the monies were forgiven in the PPP loan. And so, again, access to capital is very important because we know cash is king. And we know that it's very important to be able to fund our businesses. The other benefit of certification is that it offers networking and introductions that can lead to relationship building with prospective customers. Networking. Networking is so important. I can't say it enough. It's about introductions and networking. And as we talk about certification, that it is not a guarantee of business, but we know that once we get the certification, we must learn how to leverage it, just like any other. If you say, for example, if you go to college for 4 years, you get a degree, and then you have to do the work. You have to apply for jobs, you have to network, there's introductions that are needed. And so by having the college degree doesn't guarantee you a job or career. What it does is shows that you have gone to school for 4 years. So when we look at that example, basically, basically what we're doing is saying certification is the same thing as any type of other degree. It allows you to have access to corporate supplier diversity advocates. And we're going to get into supplier diversity programs. Most government or city agencies and corporations have supplier diversity programs. And the purpose for having the programs is because most companies want to have a diverse supply chain. They want to do businesses with small business, diverse businesses, as well as majority businesses. And so when we look at it as a corporate social responsibility, most companies want their community to know that not only are they inclusive in terms of internally with their diversity and inclusion, but under supplier diversity, they're showing their diversity and inclusion by having a diverse supply chain. Being certified shows a level of commitment to your prospective customers. Again, supplier diversity programs, their advocates, their managers, they want to know that you have made that level of commitment by getting certified. And so to understand which certification you should obtain, you should go to the websites of the various companies that you have targeted to understand the type of certification that they ask for. For an example, with the airport project, there have been a lot of suppliers who have gone after that business and are working for the airport. And so therefore, their target being the city of Kansas City, they have city certification. Just one example. Supplier diversity. What is supplier diversity? Supplier diversity is defined as the process of finding, growing, and integrating diverse suppliers into the execution of corporate strategy. What does that mean? Once again, most corporations want the community to know that they are inclusive and that they do business with minority, women owned, veteran, LGBTQ business enterprises. Corporations support diversity and inclusion in their hiring, and supplier diversity is another business strategy. And it's basically focused on the unrepresented. We know that there are opportunities for minority women, disadvantaged veteran, and LGBT, as well as disabled, that we want to ensure that these individuals are getting the opportunities that they need in order to grow and expand their businesses. Bixby Voice Privacy. When we think about under the umbrella of supplier diversity, a diverse business that is owned by a member of the population. We look at minorities. Businesses deemed as diverse are due to their size, their location, and other groups that are socially or economically disadvantaged. And when we say socially or economically disadvantaged, the SBA or government states that on a normal basis, that women, minorities, veterans, and people with disabilities, LGBTQs, and SBA, they define these as small businesses. And for the most part, again, the definition says that these individuals are more than likely to be socially or economically disadvantaged. Supplier diversity by the numbers. According to the Hackett Group in 2019, they did a study. And what they found is that most companies or corporations attribute an average of 10 to 15% of their annual sales to their supplier diversity programs. For an example, we have AT&T. They spent between 14 and 17 billion. This is what they spend on a yearly basis or annual basis, which is 20 to 30% of their total domestic spend. So once again, certification is, it allows you to have opportunities to work with these corporations and to build the relationships and to grow your business because they're in it to win it. They want to work with diverse businesses. There's a group of corporate businesses, there's 28 of them, and they're called the Billion Dollar Roundtable. And in 2017, they spent collectively $77 billion with service to some veterans, disabled veterans, LGBTQ were added in August of 2017. They have been spending dollars with minority and women owned for years. The $1 billion commitment by this group of individuals, they have collectively come together and they have been spending their dollars, putting their money where their mouth is since 2001. Now, we're going to look at this slide. Now, it's a little busy, but I think it's important that you understand the types of certifications. For an example, we have the City of Kansas City, Missouri. Their certifications are for minority and woman-owned. They also have the DBE, which is disadvantaged business enterprise. And then for the airport project, that's ACDBE. Now, DBE is a federal program. So for an example, if you choose to have your headquarters in Missouri, the DBE, a federal certification, allows you to do business in Kansas, in Colorado, California, again, a federal program. The city also gives the small business certification, the small local business enterprise, and the SLBEWSDEPS, which is incongruent with the water department. And we'll talk about each of these certifications in more detail. You have the state of Missouri and the state of Kansas. The state of Missouri has MBE and WBE certifications, and the state of Kansas has MBE, WBE, and DBE. The federal government, they have small business programs. And so 8A is one of their programs. They have on the women's side, the women owned small business, uh, the small disadvantage. Um, they have Hub Zone. Uh, and the thing about the 8A program is that a lot of small businesses join the do their certification for 8A because 8A is 9 years. You stay in this program. There's mentor protege programs. Um, you get the opportunity to um, learn, have classes for growth, etc. So that's usually a federal certification that a lot of small businesses will want to obtain. Then we have the NGLCC, and that's the National Gay Lesbian Chamber of Commerce. They will give the LGBTE certification. Again, the NMSDC, the National Minority Supplier Development Council, and the Mountain Plains, which is regional. They give out the MBE, that's minority certification, um, the NBBDC, and that's the National Veterans Business Development. Um, and then WeBank is for women. So those are the terms that they have and when they normally do a site visit. Again, these are very important because when you think about what type of certification do you want to go after, you have to understand who is your target market? Who do you want to do business with? Is it federal, state, and city? Or do you want to do business with a corporation? And so once you identify who you're going after, then you align that up with the type of certification that you're going after. So I'm going to pause for a moment and I'm going to check and see if there's anything in the chat. Okay, no questions at this time. And please, by all means, if you do have questions, please put those in the chat. I'll be checking the chat momentarily and making sure that as we go through this, because I know that's why I call it a journey, because there's a lot of information that I'm going to give you today. So just don't hesitate to stop me, put your question in the chat, and we'll get those answered. Now we're going to break down those different types of certification so you can be a little bit more aware of what those different types of certifications will provide to you. The disadvantage or the DBE certification, again, is federally mandated and it's administered by the Department of Transportation. You have to be 51% owned and socially and economically disadvantaged. An economically disadvantaged individual, your net worth cannot exceed $1.3 million. You have to meet the SBA's standard size codes, which are based on NAICS. So if you're a small business, as defined by the federal government, then you should know what your NAICS code is. And that would be determined by the size of your business, your revenues, etc. Because out in the industry, whether it's city, state, or federal, or corporations, NAICS codes are very important. For an example, if one of these entities was looking for a certain product or service, say for instance, the city of Kansas City, they have a database that they will go in and they will look for a particular NAICS code. And that's the NAICS codes that would go along with that particular RFP. Or if you're a corporation and you ask that a small business owner goes to their supplier diversity portal, you would be instructed to put in information about your company. A lot of companies will ask that you Provide them with a capability statement. And your capability statement is your business resume. So it's going to give them information about who you are, what differentiates you from your competitors, some of your past projects, etc. So when they're looking for a particular product or service that they're going out to market, they will go into their internal database that they've asked um, potential suppliers to go to their websites and put this information in. They will go there and look at the various NAICS codes to ensure that they're pulling or looking at the right suppliers for that product or service. So once again, NAICS codes are very important to make sure that you know what yours are. And then the average gross receipts are not to exceed 22.4 mil for DBE. And the presumed groups, a firm certified in their home state can apply in another state, and the outside state has a discretion, even though it's a federal program, to accept your current certification. They may ask for you to forward to them the DBE certification in the state for which you applied. And then they might have additional paperwork that they might want you to fill out, or it might be a case where they're just accepting because you have already been certified by another state. Now we look at LGBT. Their certifications, again, is through their National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce. Collectively, they team with other LGBTs for contracting opportunities. And so that's always a great way when you know that there might be an RFP or contract, and maybe you don't have the capacity or the size for that particular RFP. Always consider maybe a joint venture or a partnership with another small business. And then collectively, you can go in and win that RFP. One of the benefits after 1 year of certification, the LGBTQ, they have a scholarship program. They have mentorship and leadership training, and business development tools. So once you get that certification, these are just some of the things that would be beneficial to you. As a member of the local affiliate, the NGLCC will waive the $400 certification fee. MBE certification, that's your minority business certification. And again, as you saw from the chart, there's federal, state, and city, and the national recognized third-party organizations. NMSDC for MBEs. They also have 23 regional affiliates across the country that will serve your needs if you become a member, or should I say, if MBE certification through a national organization is where you're headed. And again, Marvin Lyman at the Mountain Plains is the individual that is that supports that regional office. They do also have access to free workshops. They have business opportunity fairs and matchmaking events. And this gives you access to corporate buyers. So when you attend one of their events, they will match up and pair based on the corporations that you have an interest in. You understand that for this particular corporation, you can bring value. And we'll talk about the importance of being able to bring value to a corporation. SBA, we've talked about the 8A program. We know that the women-owned small business, there are 5% contracting goals for them. So they do have set-asides. And if you're in a hub zone program, that means that you conduct your business in an economically depressed area. So with the federal government, again, they have a lot of set-asides, not only for women, but diverse businesses as well. I'm going to stop for a moment and see if there's anything or a question, I should say, in the chat. Okay, no questions yet. Now, the SLBE WSDEPS certification, that is a certification that comes through the city of Kansas City, Missouri. And basically, this is a program with certification that is without regard to your race, color, religion, sex, national or ethnic origin, age, or disability. And there's 5% incentives to the SLBE firms that qualify. So if you're a minority owned business or woman owned business through this particular certification and program, you can be the contractor, and then you would be subcontracting out. So that's the good thing about this particular one, because a lot of times businesses are smaller and they're subcontractors to a big contract. So this gives you an opportunity to go in as a prime versus the subcontractor. The Veteran Business Enterprise, the VBE, again, there's two third-party certifying affiliates, which is the MVBDC and NAVOBA. The only difference is MVBDC will certify regardless of your size. They will also, if you have a certification through the National WeBank or the NLGCC, they can fast track your application, because basically what they're saying is one of these other agencies have already vetted your information. And so that way they can take the approach that they don't have to take as long, because the process normally takes about 90 days to get certified. Now, that's quite a bit of time, but then there's a lot of thoroughness that has to go into that process of looking over the required as well as the mandatory documents that's been required of you to get that certification. And then we have WeBank. Again, that's the women's side of the house. We have the Women's Business Center. That's Sherry Turner. They have a Launch You Business Plan program. They do some training and some workshops. They have WeLend, microloans, again, access to capital. And then they have the Capital Connection Angel Networking Network. So just some awesome things to be able to have in your back pocket as to when you're making that decision. Is certification right for you? And what type of certification? And what are some of the benefits of the various certifications, which is very, very important. Now that you've gotten the information on, I have my certification, now what? Since we know that certification is a competitive business tool, then we're going to want to look out for ways that we can leverage. And the ways to leverage your certification is to network. Attend networking events. Understand when a company is going out to market with a particular RFP. We need to make sure that we understand what are some of the issues that that targeted company has, and that we're able to bring a solution to the table. That's very important. Again, if you research the company that you're pursuing and understand what's important to them, and then you build a relationship or continually build the relationship and be patient. There's lots of suppliers that are certified, some that are not, but at the end, the city, state, federal, or corporations are trying to look at, what differentiates you from the other companies, who is best suited. And so all of that process does take a while. So it's to be patient and just to make sure that you stay visible and people want to know who you are, um, etc. So we do have a question. Do you think the set asides are beneficial or hurtful, meaning setting financial limitations? Well, the federal government, anytime, even if it's the city of Kansas City and they have a federal mandated project, they will put goals on that project, meaning X percent has to go to minority and X percent has to go to women. Then, when we look at financial limitations, the reason for this financial limitation, say for instance, on the DBE, your personal net worth having to be not to exceed $1.32 million. There are dollars out there for even MBE. That was October 1st of 2019. The personal net worth um, is now the same as the DBE. And so I believe that while the reason why they have the financial limitations is because it's for small business. And so you can grow yourself out of the various programs. And I know there's a lot of concern that companies have when they begin to get a certain size, and now they're about to size out of a various programs. So I hope that answers your question. But if not, I will have my information and would definitely love to talk to you more about it. But again, it's the federal government, and they're going to have set asides. And I believe it's beneficial because it gives opportunity for those who are disadvantaged, or if it's almost as though if there wasn't a way or a reason to be able to help them to navigate, then there might be a chance they would not get the opportunity. So it's about opportunity, level playing fields, and just making sure that there is inclusivity in the way that we do business. Again, I hope that helps. And if you would like to talk further, I would be more than happy to. When we think about post-certification readiness, are you ready to leverage your certification? Again, define your target market. Who do you want to do business with? Research their issues, their buying behaviors, their competitors. When you go before anyone, whether it's as a small business or if it's because of an interview, you want the interviewer to understand that you've done your homework. You know what their pinch points are. You know how you can solve their problems. You know the value that you bring to the table. So that's very important. I have been at conferences, and prior to becoming a business owner, I was the supplier diversity manager at Hallmark Cards for their supplier diversity programs. And I have had individuals approach me and tell me about their company. And throughout the conversation, I knew that they didn't understand what the company was all about. And um, they just didn't know. And it would have been very helpful if they had did the research and said, I understand that you have this problem, or because you're a greeting card company, do you also go out to market with these particular goods and service? So again, it's just really important that you understand that it's a competitive market. And the more you do your homework, the better off you're going to be. We've talked about identifying your competitive advantage, developing your capability statement. Again, your business resume. When you go before an individual, if you can hand them that information, then they know a lot about your business already. Register in the supplier portal that are on the various company websites. Very important. because that's where they're going to go look when they're looking for a supplier, small business, to get engaged with them and to be a part of their process. Attending the matchmaking events, making sure that you stay visible, that you understand the needs of the company and how you can help. Most companies want to make sure that you're solid, profitable, sustainable, scalable, competitive, competent, you have capacity, and always able to under promise and over deliver. As a small business, I know that that's all important because you see, today I'm on the other side of the table. And so I have to be um, all those things in terms of understanding um, what corporations want or what's in an RFP and what's important to others and the value that I bring. So I'm going to take a moment. Okay, we're going to do a time check. I look at business strategically. It is a process. You identify your target market, what the problem is, what are the pinch points, what is your value proposition, your cost savings, what impact would you have to the bottom line. Don't underbid, but look at the benefit and the impact that you would have to that company if they went with your business, the amount of dollars that they could save and impact their bottom line. Follow up, network, build relationships. All those things that we've talked about today are so important. And then you start all over again. You identify another company, you know the problems. Again, it's a process that you take. And as with most business owners, even through COVID, we've had to, again, pivot and look at our processes, our current processes. Are we online more? Do we need to change our strategies? You know, it's always important to step back and see where the wins are, to see how well your developmental plan is going. Is there room for you to make some changes? Because as competitive as it is today, if you're not making the right changes and you're staying in tune with what the consumer wants and where technology is leading us, then you can find yourself a little bit behind the eight ball and having to play catch up. So it's so important to understand your market. What are the needs? And are you perhaps looking at ways that you can bring solutions to the problems out there that someone has not solved? Wouldn't that be a great thing? So, always wonderful to think about your processes, how you're developing um, your business, and making sure that you stay ahead of what's needed in the market. I'm going to take 1 second. And I see that, but I had to plug in. So when we think about what we've talked about today, we've talked a lot about the different certifications that are available to you and some of the decisions that you'll have to make in regards to which certification you would like to obtain. It is important to be a certified uh, small business because there's an opportunity that might be awaiting you that you haven't taken the time to check into. And what I always say is that if we've identified the fact that it could be 90 days before the certifying agency has done their process, and then an opportunity knocks, you won't be ready because it's going to take you time to gather your documents. It's going to take time for them to review your information, etc. So it's like anything else, better to have than not to have, especially when opportunity knocks on the door. We always want to be prepared. So I'm going to do a check really quick. Okay. The question that I'm looking at right now is there a government bid template available? Um, is there a sample bid amount by industry? It depends on your NAICS code, what product or service that you are providing. And as far as a bid template, there's really not a bid template. If you go through the process of getting the certification, if that's where you're headed, um, then you'll have a better understanding of how the government works. And when you say government, I'm taking it that you mean the SBA, the federal government. Um, and so, as far as the bid amounts by industries, it depends on the project, the RFP, etc. That would dictate um, the amount. So hopefully that answers your question. And if not, again, I will put my information in the end and would be more than happy to talk to you further. Again, because today a lot of small businesses or doing business with corporations, and at this point, they want to do a switch. They want to go from corporations to federal government and vice versa, which is perfectly fine. So again, it's just understanding what would be the benefit of choosing a particular certification, what's in that certification in terms of, is it the 8A program? Is it the Women-Owned Small Business, the WOSB? You know, again, you have to kind of know what your end game is. What is your strategy for wanting to get the certification? And then, most importantly, which type of certification are you going to go with? Okay, we have 1 minute. And again, in summary, I think we've talked about this several times throughout this presentation. What are the benefits to you and your company? Is there a particular niche that you can fill for a corporation? And the other thing to consider, sometimes we have to take steps to get whatever we want to get done. And what I mean by that is, it might be a good thing for small business to work together and then build up on that. And then when you come to the big contract, you're ready to go. You've gotten some experience, you've had a partnership or a venture, and it just prepares you. So there's other small businesses that might be larger than a smaller small business that you can work with. And so that's cool too. Been there and I've done that one. Really good results. Again, forming those strategic alliances. And let's see, lastly, are you missing out on opportunities if you do not get your certification? And I'm going to leave you with this. Normally, I get a question, should I try and get my certification on my own? And so these are just some things that would be a benefit of having an expert to help you with that process. Some of the concerns, the cost, the fear of missing out, or if you want to do the certification on your own, it saves, it forces you to know the answers, some of the concerns. It's a pretty complicated process. The failure of not being approved, and it takes away from growing your business to being focused on strategy, being focused on sales or business development, etc. So just some things to think about, um, and then making the decision as to which is better for you. Once again, I'm Mary Shannon, Connect Us Worldwide. I like you. I'd like to thank you so much for being here today. My contact information is here. So if you have any questions about certifications that I did not answer today or did not present today, we only had 45 minutes, so there's lots and lots more that I can talk to you about certification. So again, thank you so much. Take care, and hopefully I will hear from you. Bye bye.